So for the past 3 weeks, we've been looking into the gifts that Jesus gave the church. In Ephesians 4, verse 11, Jesus says these gifts were given to the church: apostles, prophets, evangelists, teachers, and shepherds. It's the only time, maybe for 2 or 3 others, that the word pastor is used in the New Testament, and it's there, pastors and teachers. But it's also there that we've taken these 2 final gifts that we're going to look at today, the gift of shepherding or pastor and the gift of teacher, and we've kind of overemphasized them in the church. Not that that's a bad thing, but we want to make sure that we put the other 3 at the same level playing field, because we need all 5 in the church for it to thrive and for it to work. So we looked at apostles, the leaders, the visionaries, the risk takers in the church. We looked at the prophets, those that are passionate about God's word and hold the organization fast and tight to God's mission for it. We looked at evangelists, those that want to go out and see people come to Christ, those that just can't help but tell people about the grace and the gift of hope that comes in knowing Jesus. Today we're going to look at the pastors and the teachers, the shepherds, and those that are able to share knowledge in the church. And as I said in the children's moment, we've kind of taken this role in the modern church and we've said, well, pastor kind of encompasses all this stuff. So the pastor has this role. And not all pastors do. I will tell you that some of these aren't my strongest suits, and these last 2 we're going to talk about, they aren't my gifts. We make them work and we do them as we move forward. You'll find with all 5 of these gifts that you have a little bit of this in you in all aspects. Well, one may not be your favorites. At some point in time, God will raise it up in you for a purpose and for a place and for a reason. But today we're going to look at these last 2, and we're going to look at them from some of the words that James gives us in his book. And we're going to talk about these 2 separately, but also kind of in conjunction, because I believe they do flow together in a lot of ways in our lives. So if you'd like to follow along, we're going to start in James chapter 1, verse 26. So hear now the word of the Lord. Those who consider themselves religious, and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues, deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. Let's pray. Dear Father, we come today and pray that as we read and study your word, that you would open it to our hearts, and that you would help us to understand it and apply it. That as we leave this place, we understand our gifts that are on mission for you to serve your purpose and your will. We pray these things in your name, Lord. Amen. So, I would ask this question first. Are we caring people? Do we care about anybody? Or do we only care about ourselves? Because if we would look in the scope of the world today, I would tell you if somebody would look and get a snippet of what the United States is about by watching the commercials on TV, the politicians in their conferences, and the marches that go on day after day, I think what they would say is, you are a people that only care about yourself. You don't care about other people. If you want something done, then you do it your way. If you want something for yourself, you go out and you get it. If you want something to change because of something you're passionate about, you don't worry about anybody else. You only do your own. So if we look at caring today in those terms, and we look at caring in terms of James, where he says to look after orphans and widows is pure and faultless faith. Then how do we put that into context? And see, today, that is where we need to raise up and build up the shepherds in our church. The first of the 2 we're going to talk about is this term shepherd, or as it's written in the NIV and Ephesians, pastors. People that have a deep heart for caring, for helping, for protecting those around us. As I asked the kids this morning, what does a shepherd do? They named them all, right? They watch after their sheep so they don't get hurt. They feed their sheep so they're well fed. They shear their sheep so that what their sheep are producing can be used and taken care of. And then Kelly added in the last, they eat their sheep, right? So we'll talk about eating our sheep maybe in a little different way than Kelly had thought. But as shepherds in our communities, we have to care for people's place. We have to care for people's appetite. And we have to care for people's gifts, that they can use them and build them up in their lives. So the first of those is shepherds build relationships. They're the relationship people in the church. They want to see outsiders get to know insiders, insiders get to know outsiders, outsiders knowing outsiders, insiders knowing insiders. They want people to be in community. Because shepherds understand that in relationship is where you build purpose and where you have an opportunity to exercise your other gifts. If we don't have a relationship, then it's kind of hard to share your spiritual gifts with anybody else if you're only ever on your own. So shepherds have this tremendous want to share their relationships and build them up. If we think about it in the field, if the sheep all know where the sheep are and one gets lost, they're going to start making noise. The shepherd realizes somebody's lost, somebody's hurt, somebody's in need. We need to build relationships in our church, and people are gifted with that in amazing ways. The relationship builders, the shepherds in the church. So if you look today, we're going to have a Secret Sister auction. One of the leaders putting that together is somebody that likes to build relationship. They like people to be together to do things with one another. And it's important to have that in the church. Men build relationship in different ways. I had somebody ask me one time, do you have a Secret Brothers program? And I said, I'm not sure how that would work. You know, we walk in the church and everybody goes, hey, oh, I can't talk to you. You're my secret brother. Or what do we get each other for gifts? Tools, guns? I don't know. We could do something like that, I guess. But it probably wouldn't be quite the same. So shepherds understand how to build relationships within unique groups and how that works. Building a relationship between two ladies is not the same as building a relationship between two men. Women like to write cards and hug. Men likes to grunt and shoot things. It's a different way of looking at life, right? We have to look at that in a specific way on how it works. Shepherds have a gift for being able to do that. The shepherds create ways to care for the herd. We talk about feeding sheep. Feeding sheep comes in different ways. Physically, we can feed them, right? They need food to survive and to move on. But we also feed sheep in ways of caring. To lift those who are hurt up, to pray for them and support them. But beyond that, to really be that prayer partner. Beyond when people say, hey, I'm praying for you, and they walk out and you think, I don't think they even know my name. Right? To the people that are the shepherds in the church that are in your heart, and you know when they talk to you that they have a deep sense of care. I had a great aunt growing up, and when she would meet with us, she would always say, I'm praying for you. And within our family, it got to be a little bit of a joke that we knew when we saw her, she was going to be praying for us. But we knew deep down she was dead serious about it. And she had a list of each of our family members to pray for us. And that meant something that she was doing that. Shepherds have that gift of caring, that it is personal, that it is applicable in all cases, in all places. They have a deep sense of passion for helping their brothers and sisters. Shepherds want to help the hurt. They're the ones that you will see in hospitals not because they were asked to be there, but because they felt somebody needed somebody to talk to, and they'll go in and they'll care and they'll pray and they'll help. They're the ones that show up at houses when people are hurt, can't get out, the snow's too deep, the hot weather's too hot, too wet, and they'll be there and say, what do you need? I want to help you. Shepherds are passionate about that. And you can tell when you see them because that is their focus on who they are and what they're doing. How do we help the less fortunate, those in need, those that are hurt, those that are wanting to be in relationship with us? The shepherd listens more than speaks. So people talk about pastors in the shepherding role. And I know pastors that are very good at it. I struggle with it. If you haven't noticed, I like to talk. Right? And sometimes the best way to shepherd is to just sit and listen. And let people speak. And let people share the deepest concerns on their heart. Let people share who they are and their passion in life. And we have gifts for doing that. But it also comes important as shepherds help to bring people into faith. To just sit and listen to people's concerns and questions, their skepticisms and their needs. Now, what are questions about faith? And shepherds have a passion for that again. I keep saying passion because I think shepherds in this group of people are some of the most passionate people that we have in the church. Their heart hurts for those that don't know faith. Their heart hurts for those that are in need. Their heart hurts for those that aren't in community. They want people to be in those roles and in those things. The shepherd builds up people who have gifts. You know, as we grow in the church and we learn about these gifts, it's great that we talk about what it means to be an apostle or a prophet or evangelist. But if we don't create a path for you to use that gift, then it becomes frustrating. You know you have it, but you don't have a way to use it. If you're a great carpenter and people only ever ask you to put in driveways, you get frustrated, not because you don't mind doing that work, but because your passion in life is wood, and you want to do that. If you're a great baker and you get an opportunity to bake and to give, it frustrates you. If you're a great speaker and you never get an opportunity to speak, it challenges you because you have passion. So shepherds help us in the church find those that are gifted and use them, right? The shepherds shear the sheep, and they take that wool and they use it in the applicable places and the applicable reasons. The same with our spiritual gifts. Shepherds want to help us to build that up and use it. And the last, shepherds eat their sheep. Right? I love kids and how they look at this. Right? And so I can see Kelly right now thinking, Jason says we're shepherds and we eat sheep. How do we do that, right? And if the people are the sheep, that looks kind of weird, right? But shepherds help people give up themselves for the gospel of Jesus Christ. See, Jesus asked us to be good sheep, and to be good sheep, we have to give up our life at some point in time. Whether when we're called home or in the instance of some of those that are persecuted in the world for the gospel. Shepherds, pastors, help people understand that call and that time and that place. And giving up your life may not be physically. Giving your life may be saying, somebody comes to you and says, hey, I feel like I need to go somewhere to be a missionary. That means giving up everything I have to go and do it. And shepherds are the ones that can say, you know what? Let me pray about that. And I'll help you make that transition and do those things. There's a call in our hearts to do that. Shepherds help us make that transition. But shepherds, I think, are one of these calls that need people with them as well, right? And all five have to work together. But apostles tend to kind of do their own thing, right? They like to lead the group. Prophets are going to go out, they're going to share the message. Evangelists are going to call people along, a lot of times individually, sometimes in groups, sometimes as a body. But shepherds need, I think, people with them, because this shepherding is, it's a spiritual gift, but it's also a spiritual training. And you need people to help you and feed you and build you up too in this. And so we look at teachers, and I think these last two go together in some ways. In teachers, we're going to read a little more for James, chapter 1. Verse 22, right before our other scripture, it says this: do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anybody have parents that tell us? You hear me, but you never listen to me, right? You have to do what I say. So James is telling the church, don't really listen to the word, but do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror, and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. Teachers, to me, transition the scripture into real life. You know, growing up, I had teachers that I loved, and I had teachers that I really didn't want to go to school for. When I was a young man in school, I tended to be a little bit of the class clown, act out once in a while, not always follow the rules. I know this is hard to hear, and you probably don't believe it, but that was me. And I had a teacher young in school that called my mother into the school one day. And he said to her, Jason's not paying attention to school, but I think he can do better than he's doing. And he made me read this book called Little Men. Little Men is a book that is 1,000 pages of misery. I hated it. But he forced me to do it. And he pulled me out of some of the activities that I like and forced me to pay attention in the school. And I can tell you he made a mark on my educational career from that point forward. I hated him when I was in his class, but looking back on school, he was one of the teachers that probably made the biggest impact and transition in my life to move forward and to do things. Because instead of letting me just do what I wanted to do, he made me do what I despised. And out of doing what I despised taught me a valuable lesson that we need to apply ourselves and conquer anything in what we do. Teachers have a gift to be able to do that. Teachers are planners. Most of the teachers I know, and I think the ones in this congregation, tend to be organized, planning people. And when I work with some of these teachers on committees at the church, they look at me and say, I can't stand working with you, because there's no plan. You just come in and say, hey, we're going to do this, and you leave. And we're stuck here. And I tell them all, I think I've told most of them, I have you here because you are planners. Teachers have an ability to plan ahead and put things into practice to get to an end goal. To go from a group of people that aren't organized and don't know anything, to at the end of a class year, the end of a Bible study, the end of a series, be a group of people that are organized and on mission together. Be that's the first grade that learns how to walk in line to lunch and recess, or the mission group that learns how to go together into a community and change lives. Teachers have that ability to plan and put into purpose. We can see how planning goes with shepherding, right? Shepherds kind of just go, and teachers help organize and move together. Teachers are passionate about transferring knowledge. The teachers I know in here want people to learn. The teachers I know well want people to have a transfer of knowledge. Their passion is taking what they know, in the sense we think of teachers, having their students know it better than them at the end of the year. In the church, it's taking what we know as Scripture, as God's call, as Jesus' mission in life, and having the other people in our church know it better than us and be more passionate about it at the end of the day. Teachers' passion is transitioning and transferring that knowledge from one place to another. Teachers find new ways to teach learning. I marvel at how teachers can take some of the most boring things in life and make them exciting for students to learn. Every year I'm amazed at Bible school by the time we're done, between crafts and our centers and our teaching. These kids get excited about learning what they're here for. In Sunday school, I see the same thing. In Bible studies, in mission groups, in care groups. Teachers are the ones that can take the same story you've heard since you were in kindergarten, and it feels like the most exciting thing you've looked at in a long time. Because they have a way to build and transition that into a way we want to learn and hear. They have a way of making everything exciting. They have a way of making teaching great again, right? Throw in a political plug. Right? We have teachers in our community. And they do these things. But we look at teachers and we look at shepherds, and we have this care group, these people in our church that are passionate about teaching and feeding and giving. We have our teachers that are passionate about learning and instructing and organizing. And they come together. And then we have our evangelists that passion is reaching out to people for Jesus. Seeing people understand faith and come to know Jesus. And if we see them out on their mission doing that, then we have a care team and teachers behind them. And then we've got the apostles who are behind them saying, guys, this is all great, but we need to make sure we stay focused on the mission that God has given us. We need to stay focused on where the Bible is leading us. And they help point this group in a direction. And we have the apostles at the front of the group saying, guys, we're going to run through that wall and we're not going to slow down because God is calling us to be on that side of it. And we're going to do it big and we're going to do it bold. And you start to see how these 5 gifts that God has given the church work together. And how these 5 gifts build the church up to be a fine-tuned running machine for the gospel. And how these 5 gifts come together, we start to see people come to know Jesus. We see those people who have come to know Jesus be cared for, to be taught, to be held accountable to the Bible. We start to see how these people come in and they become evangelists and apostles and prophets and teachers and caregivers. And this process explodes. Friends, this is how the church in the book of Acts went from 12 men that didn't know where they were going to 5,000 people in a couple of weeks. These are the gifts that God gave the church to make it grow. Over the past 4 weeks, we've given you 5 or 6 points about these gifts. That is not an exhaustive list for any means or any reason. You may be sitting here saying, well, I checked off 3 for evangelists, but those last 2, I don't know. You're probably an evangelist. You may be saying, you know what, I like to lead, but I'm not sure I'm that big of a risk taker. You probably have a lot of apostle gift within you. You may be sitting here, you know what, I love to pray with people and that, but I'm not that great at community. That's okay, right? God has given us all 5 of these gifts, some stronger, some smaller. There's tools out there you can go and look at them if you'd like to. I can point you to those places. It'll help you kind of define it. If you haven't figured it out yet, I have a lot of apostleship in my gifts, in my calling. There's some teacher in there and some caregiver. We each have them. And the important part of this is we have to work together. If we're going to make the gospel grow, if we're going to bring people to Jesus Christ, if the world is going to be changed by the impact of the gospel in 2018, These 5 gifts have to be working and moving together. So I encourage you. In 2 weeks, we're going to summarize all this again. It's Scout Sunday next week, and we're going to invite and welcome in our guests. In 2 weeks, we're going to go over this one more time. I'm going to give you a chart that I put together. It'll help you identify where you are. As we identify those things, I'd like you to let me know where you think you're at. Not because I have something in mind or something I'm going to bind you to, but because as we build small group communities, as we build new activities, as we look at new programs and new structures, as we look at future mission trips, as we look at future gospel activities, we want to build our teams around the gifts of the faith. We want to build our teams around the gifts of the gospel and what Jesus gave us. And don't think I don't know where a lot of you are. I pay attention. And we're trying to build that way. But I'd love for you to look at it yourself and give us an idea. Because as you understand your gift, then we can also help you build up that gift and release it and see Jesus do amazing things in your life. Friends, we've been called to this. God's used these gifts already. In the past 5 years, we've gone 40 to 80 to 100. God's using them. And I look forward to see where God's going to use them in the next year, and 2 and 5, as we move forward for the gospel of Jesus in this community and in communities beyond. Let's pray. Dear Father, we pray today that you be with us and guide us, that you will help us to understand you in all things, that, Lord, you would build us up. That as we look at these gifts, as we look at how we've been called to ministry and how our ministry has been put on mission, that you would help us to understand who we are and where we are. That you would help us understand which of these 5 you blessed us with the most in our lives, and which of these are second and third and fourth. Father, not that we can stand up and say, hey, I'm a prophet, but Father, we can say, hey, I understand part of my role. And we can dive deeper into that and be fulfilled even more by your Spirit and grace. Father, we thank you for this time and this congregation. We pray for this community as we go out of these doors, as we go on mission for you. We have an opportunity to exercise these gifts and share your grace. We pray these things in your name. Amen. If you all